Hey everyone, welcome. We have Habib. That's how you say it, Habib.
Habib, yeah.
Yeah.
What's
How's it
up,
going, man?
everyone? Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. Yeah. Welcome to the show. So we know your type. It's written there, so we're not going to guess. But let's just start as we always do. What's your journey? How did you get here?
Yeah, so like I've seen that question be asked to people, and for me, it's kind of like random. I think the first time I ever heard of like MBTI was 8 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago. My ex-girlfriend wanted me to get typed or something. She was like allegedly an INTJ, and I was allegedly an ENFP. And but since then I hadn't really looked at it, but I did kind of like every so often, like, kind of look at what my Myers-Briggs type was. It would always pretty much come back as ENFP. And then one of my friends who's in the OP groups and stuff, he had been into MBTI and he's been doing the deep dive. And I'm like, this is a smart guy. He's also an engineer, but like he's like way more like, yeah, anyway, he's a smart guy. I respect his opinion. And for some reason, he's into this Myers-Briggs stuff. And I'm like, why is this guy who went to Cooper Union, studied like all this engineering stuff, like, why is he into personality? Why is he, there has to be something there.
Do we
And
know
then
him?
why
Is he
was
an
my,
OP?
yeah. But I'm
Okay.
not sure he cares about like, I don't think he wants to put his name out there.
Okay.
But it's, but then basically like, I'm like, so why is he into it? And then as soon as I looked at it, the OP videos, and that was more recently, that was like last summer, 2020, and especially a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
We then I did a kind of deep dive into it because I looked at a few videos. I'm like, wait a minute, this is holding up to like the thousands of people I've talked to over the course of my life. And I felt like I'd been kind of good at getting to know people like in person, and I'm able to like kind of figure people out, but there are some people who I can't. And then so the 512 types really spoke to me as to like why there are some people who are like way on the edge. And I always knew there are people who are more extroverted than me, and that always puzzled me. I'm like, why does this person have so much energy? So like hearing about the jumpers was really good because I'm like, there are people who are on crack, um, personality wise, and it was really good to see that. And also like the human needs, the way that stuff is framed, like one person is very happy doing their own thing and confident, while one other person, no matter how high they go, they're never satisfied. They're always, like looking for validation from others, and it's never enough because they keep
Right.
trying to serve the tribe. So it's, yeah,
So,
it
okay.
was
So
very interesting to me
you
to
saw a
see
bunch
all the
of
512.
things. Yeah. You
Yeah,
saw a bunch of
yeah,
things that were pointing to reality. It was you saw it was matching reality, right? And so you got
yeah.
typed. Was your wife typed as well? She was INTJ and MBTI or an
No. That was my ex-girlfriend.
ex-girlfriend? Okay.
So she's, I haven't talked to her since like 8 years ago. But
Right.
my wife is of the last 7 years. So like I've been with her for 7+ years. I suspect that she might be TISI,
Okay.
sleep first.
Cool.
Either that or consume sleep. She's kind of mopey. But I'll leave it at that. She's not typed. She's not interested in this stuff in that level, because if she was, she would have to go very deep, like deeper than me. And like, yeah, because
Yeah.
like once something is in her box, she goes like way too hard on it. So like, because I'm already so into it, she doesn't want to, you know, get involved.
She's not getting it from you from by osmosis. You're not talking about it at
She
home
is
a lot.
getting it by
Yeah.
osmosis. Yeah, the osmosis
Right.
is happening. Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah.
So that's enough. That's basically enough already.
Cool. All right. So
Yeah.
let's get into your type a little bit. So double masculine, like that's an interesting thing. Like, do you see that stand out for you?
Yeah, definitely. It was one of those realizations I made like very close to submitting my type when I got typed. Like before that, I had no idea what the modalities were. But then once I started learning about what masculine DE was, I'm like, whoa, I have that.
Right.
Because my friends, like people I know, they eventually get worried about what I'm going to say because I'm so blunt and brutal.
Okay.
Like that is consistent. It is a consistent thread throughout my life of me being like brutally honest. So since then, I've really honed it in, especially spending 5 years in corporate America. It's you can't be that brutal to people. You can't be so matter of fact and there's a certain brutality that comes with the masculine DE. So that was a big revelation. And as far as the masculine sensory goes, I could go either way with it. I mean, it's fine. There are things I won't remember if I decide it's not worth remembering, if I could just look it up later, right? Because we have Google. So I think masculine sensory is still one that I'm trying to wrap my head around what it's actually doing. But I do think that the SETE is very real. I always feel like a gravitational pull to the SETE. Yeah.
I feel like the memory thing is just a way that you can maybe catch it, but not exactly what the masculine SE is. I'm sure there's something else going on there, right? This, like the way you type someone isn't always the way it's working underneath the surface, right?
Yeah. The way it's working underneath the surface, it depends. I find that the masculinity, femininity is more about like the gravitational, like the center of mass is going to be more around the masculine functions. Like that's what you're drawn to. That's what you believe in. That's what you trust in because it's solid. At least for me, that's how it works.
Well, for you, they're saviors.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for you, that's not even, yeah. Okay, so you're leading with SE. Do you see SE like does because most people I talk to who have lead SE, they just say it feels like it should be a freebie. It feels like everybody has SE. Like you got ripped off on your first function. Are you seeing that a little bit, or you're seeing something different?
Yeah, I'm seeing that, but then I'm also seeing that people are not doing it. People are not like they actually think SE is a big deal, and so because I get it for free, or like I feel like everyone, I do agree with those people, right? Like SE feels like you should get it for free. But, I'm not taking it for granted that if I choose to study something, I can just download all the information, right? Like, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to be able to blast about it, right? Like, that's the thing. But like, it's great. I think not a lot of people are able to do that. They're not able to just walk into some field, some random field, and just like learn as much as they can, right? Like that's not a given. I feel like other people should have it. So it is like kind of a societal expectation. So I do totally see that. Like society kind of expects you to be able to retrain. Like they're telling those workers who are getting their jobs taken away from them, hey, why don't you just learn coding? I'm like, I could do that, but I also know that other people can't just like SE download all the sensory on a new field, right? Like people can't do that. They're not willing to explore the data.
So you also have the play consume, so it's the double activated first masculine. So like, do you see it in terms of variety? Do you see yourself looking for more and more? Like you're never settling on one SE, you have to jump to the next one. Is there some kind of thing with that going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Like right now, I'm very bored by what people are generally. Yeah, not this interview, but like, yeah. in life, right? I'm like a little bit bored about like what is there? There's money, there's I think I've heard Griff talking about like Ty Lopez's, health, wealth, love, and happiness or whatever, right? And I'm like, okay, is that all there is? I'm like, we kind of have that, like, is that all there is? Is that all the SE there is? So what I feel like my SE is doing is trying to find something new, something exciting, something that makes life worth living. Like it's like, is this it? Like you look at, wealthy people, how they live their lives. All right, so you have a jet. Okay, so how is that new? How's your mansion? How is that new? How is that significant? And so that's why it's kind of connected to that. And well, at least my NIFI is really like judging. That's where my judging comes into play. Is like, I'm like, okay, so let's say you have $1 billion. Now what? Like, do you have? Yeah. So it's.
What about like so are you looking for new sensory experiences? Like you don't want to eat the same kind of food. You don't want to see the same kind of movie. You don't want to. do the same kind of snowboarding thing? You want to do skiing next time? Like, let's just throw all the stereotypes on the table.
Yeah, like all that. The thing about Savior SE is we know how hard it is. Like, I don't know how to snowboard. I don't know how to ski. I respect that you have to learn that. Like, you can't just be good at all the SE things automatically. You have to put in the time, right? Like, so like none of that, like, why would I do that? It has to, for me, yeah, like all the SE things, like they're boring to me because I have done things before. Like after you have experienced some things, right? Like I did wrestling for a year and then I'm bored with it, right? It's like, you know, whatever the sensory experience is, I'm trying to seek something new because I'm like, why is everyone wrapped up in this? Why is, so I often notice like the tribe or people in general are getting involved with the same thing. Like everyone's going like snowboarding, skiing. I'm like, why? And is that something I need to, if you really want to be like the best skier or snowboarder, like you have to put in a lot of time and then like you're missing out on so much. By doing some SE, you're missing out on other SE that could be more significant.
Right. Yeah. I'm wondering also, so SE is comparing like sensory on the spectrum, but also maybe where you are on the sensory spectrum compared to others. So like wrestling, for example, you know that how far you are from the top of the mountain in wrestling, and you know how much work it'll take for you to get there. And so maybe that's like, hey, I don't want to put in all that work. I want to just give up now. Like it's either go to the top or go home, or
yeah, exactly. It's like I'm seeing people getting concussions. I'm like, all right, why are you doing that? Do you need to be involved in a sport where you're gonna get, you know, brain damage, or like you're gonna get those cauliflower ear or whatever the hell, like, you know?
Oh yeah. Right.
And yeah, there's like, I don't want to shit on that sensory too much, but there are a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to go all in on wrestling. Right. And I'm like, I want to protect my brain. I want to actually do something. I want to actually like learn something, advance the species in some way. Like I'm trying to do, like when I think about like the human race, it's like what SE is trying to do is discover like new sensory that's worth doing, worth getting good at. Is it worth getting good at? Is it worth being better, best in this area?
Are you tracking that too? Who is the better, best? Like, is that always like, do you see where people lie on that spectrum? Like, say somebody's playing a musical instrument and they're just really bad at it and they want to be a singer, and you're just like, yeah, you get kind of no.
Yes, yeah. So like with singing, like that's definitely one of them, right? Like, for me also, like I think when I was a little younger, like I knew that my middle brother, for example, was like the good looking one in the family. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not that person. So like if there's anything, I'm not gonna try to care about that realm. I've like kind of NI'd that away. It's like, okay, so there are people who are good looking. I'm not gonna go and do whatever good looking people do. And yeah, so it's because I'm not the best in that category, because I don't have the hope of being better, best in that category. You save a lot of time, and you just do something else.
Right. Yeah.
What else? Like engineering, right?
Like invest your energy where it's worth investing, I guess. Yeah. Sorry.
So like even when it comes to like you know, my work, software engineering, I see people are picking up on it like very fast, or like really well. They have all the nuts and bolts and all the zeros and ones figured out. They can go into any system, any framework. They can figure it all out like very easily, very quickly, and make a huge impact. Solely by their technique and the engineering, like how they're doing it, how they're designing systems, how they're picking up you know, other people's systems as well and integrating those. So I know where I fall into that category. So I've had like, and that's where like the imposter syndrome would come in, is like, how good am I at that? Where do I fall in? I see I'm clearly here, whereas this kid who's younger than me is over here. And it's like, do I need to give up in this area? So what I do instead is like, I did have a contemplation point of like, do I give up on engineering or do I continue? So what I do is actually integrate it with another discipline or another thing like entrepreneurship. And I'm like, okay, there you go. Like as soon as you combine entrepreneurship with engineering, then you have a lot more ways to go, because the
Right.
best engineers are not necessarily building businesses.
Yeah. I wonder also, because like you are seeing it on the spectrum, right? You're seeing where you fit into it, and it's kind of discouraging, like the whole EJ thing, where it's like you don't feel good enough because you see that there's so many awesome people out there, right? And I mean, so I wonder if like it's discouraging a little bit to see that like to be aware of
Yeah.
that spectrum a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's like, I'm not an IP. I'm not about to say like, hey, I'm God in this area before I've
Right.
actually done anything. Like, okay, I don't mean to say that to IPs, but like, you know, I don't
Yeah.
have that. That's where like the tribe is coming in, is I'm paying a little bit more respect to what the tribe hierarchy is. But that actually gives me even more pushback, because when I actually do choose something to get good at, people are like, whoa, Habib, you actually think you're going to do well in this? Like, you're actually serious.
Right.
It's like, you actually think you're going to go, you know, to the high level, the highest level of this area. So,
Right.
so it's still, it's lonely. You have to, at the end of the day, you do have to invest in your DI. You do have to, no matter where you go, you have to say that I have something to contribute here.
Right. I wonder also if like you see, okay, so you're like, let's say you start off down here. I can wear my hands down here, and you see somebody's up here.
Yeah.
Do you try to mimic that person to try to get there? Like, is that kind of a thing? It's like, I'm going to mimic the person until I'm close enough, and then I'll find my own way. Or like, how do you
Yes.
Yeah.
I kind of have to. Yeah. I need to rely. I'm double extrovert, right? So I have to rely on others, the work that they've done before me. Like, if I'm going to climb the mountaintop, I'm going to need your packaging, your equipment, your gear, you
Right.
know, to go to wherever I need to go. I need to rely on others. It's faster. It TE works if I borrow from other people. So I'm going to borrow your tools. Give me whatever tools you have, whatever frameworks you have, whatever methodologies you have, whatever data you have, and I will take it from there. Because I will copy as long as it makes sense. And then I will do the little NT, I'm NT last. So I'm going to figure out the last little bits that you haven't. And you're gonna be like, whoa, you did that? It's like, you're capable of doing that. It's like, when I finally get to the blast, it's like, whoa, you actually did think of a few different things, but mostly it's the same. It's 80 or 95% the same. And there's like 20%, you know,
you put your own
a little
special spin
different.
on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And what about in terms of just breaking patterns? Like, does that really annoy you, people who are stuck on patterns, or I don't know, or like, yeah, it sounds like you know something about that.
Yeah, like to me, it's like people are slow. People are in their own patterns. Like, the thing about SETE is it's fast. It sees everything. Everything is real. Like, the
Like, you're
world is
looking for the
real. Like, the
exceptions to the
facts are
pattern?
real. Like, people are fitting their pattern. So I do want to find the exceptions to the pattern. People who have been able to come from a low point and go higher. So I understand the whole alpha game and creating an alpha doc. That all makes sense to me, because that's hard. It's hard to break out of patterns, because when you go around the world with these SETE eyes and you're seeing people stuck in their patterns, you're like, who the fuck is breaking out of this? Who's actually doing it? Who's actually starting from the bottom, going all the way up here? You know, like,
it's really
who
funny.
has a
It's like
good story? Yeah.
It's a big dichotomy too, is where it's like, because you're SE, you're not seeing your own patterns, and you get stuck in a pattern, even though you kind of want to break your patterns. And so, like, over a period of time, you might catch yourself. You might just be like, okay, I'm seeing I'm in a pattern. How did I not see this before? Does that ever happen to you? Those kind of realizations?
Yeah, it's not, you know, after seeing the code, I don't really blame myself for not seeing the pattern.
Yeah.
But it's also, and also I'm pretty, you know, being double extrovert, I see other people screwing up as well. So I'm not gonna say, hey, you know, like, I'm significantly worse than this other person. Like,
That's right.
I see plenty of people. I can easily like pat myself on the back, say like, hey, this other guy, this other person, like, they're all doing it. So the pattern, the NI pattern comes in, like, I made this analogy before, the sunset. It's like you have all the SE in the day, and then it's like that one moment you see the sun setting, and everything becomes clear. And it's like the NI, it's infrequent and it's demon, but it does, yeah, it does come into view like one moment out of the day. You have 23 hours
Right.
of bullshitting and then
And
1
then
hour of clarity. And then hopefully if you can grab onto that, NI, FI, whatever the hell you've discovered, then you're good. But yeah.
cool. So you mentioned earlier that you saw people screwing up on the SE all the time, people that don't have SE. So where do you see that?
It's like overfitting. It's like choosing a standard, a bad standard, I'd say.
Okay.
I think that people who are doing their saviors are doing them kind of naively. So if someone is choosing an NI, it's like it's not even that good of an NI, right? Like it's like, what have you chosen to get good at? I can shit on anyone's anything. Tell me what someone's like. Give me as many titles to someone's job as you want. I can shit on it, right? Like that's I can masculine, SETE, shit on it, right? Like you can shit on anyone's NI, but that's why it's personal, right? And so where I see people fucking up is maybe in being incongruent or picking a bad standard, or, and this is the biggest thing, friends, who you have around you. Like people are fucking up and even if they have that moment of clarity, they have more people reinforcing that negative worldview or that like substandard worldview or substandard standards. Like, hey, like I'm happy as long as I have $1,000 in the bank. Like, okay, is that really it? Is that what you're, but you got to start somewhere.
I see people screw up in this way, but I'm like, maybe I'll say it. Maybe you see something similar. I want to know if you see something similar. So like, it's really easy to zone out and not pay attention to what's going on around you. But when you do need to be there, you do need to be present. You do need to pay attention. You and I are obligated to like be present and be there, right? Not zone out. And some people just don't do that. They just don't pay attention. They just not looking at their surroundings, even when they should be, like driving, for example. Go ahead. Yeah.
I thought about this. I'm like, what kind of advice would I give to non-STs about the ST stuff? That because you and I are both ST,
right?
As fuck, right? So what I would say to someone who's not ST is like, you don't even have to do ST that much. Pick a few areas where you want to do a tiny bit of ST, right? Like you're going to want to break out of your own patterns. Like if you have N or F, right? Like you have an NF vibe you're trying to go for. Like I'm demon NF. There's still an NF vibe I'm trying to go after. There's still NF goals. There's still my why. I'm still chasing my purpose or something, right? Like there's some meaning, some feeling you want. And in order to do that, you don't even have to do that much ST. Like when I think about my bills and all that, like you just need to audit yourself. In this analogy, you just need to audit yourself once a quarter, once a year, once every 6 months. Like do a little bit of auditing. Just a little bit of auditing goes a long way. Check reality.
Like double check reality. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like when you see those people like those hoarders or whatever, like I maybe watched a little bit of that, like when you see people like hoarding stuff, that's just a random example, but like they haven't checked reality. Like
that's interesting because I always thought the hoarders would be like gatherers, right? They just gather too much. They can't organize what they have. They can't throw it out.
Or they're going all in on their box or whatever. They're like but yeah, or they're collecting one thing to hell, right? Like they're like, oh, this is important. Oh, this is I don't know. Okay. I don't want to get into I don't want to get into hoarding, but the idea is just check reality. Just don't be out of touch with reality. You don't even have to do it often. If it's your double demon, whatever ST, like you can still do it. Even that's what I mean by the sunset, right? Like 23 hours, you can fuck around. Okay, do whatever you want. But like for like 1 hour or for half an hour, if you can get a little bit of discipline to actually do the auditing 1 day out of the month or something, like that'll take you really far.
So in the description, there's a link that you gave me to a website that you're working on. And so you're talking about, it's basically a way to get organized, like basically to handle your habits and stuff. And like, so I guess this is for yourself, like you need this kind of thing. So do you want to talk about why you need it first?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason why I would need it is in the course of a month, I can be really hard on myself and say, why didn't I do the thing I needed to do? Why am I not, living the life I want to live? Why am I being incongruent with who I am inside? Or why am I not able to meet the expectations of others, of myself? I'm failing myself or others somehow. Or it doesn't have to be that dramatic. It could just be like, hey, I want to be a person of my word, right? Like I want to be able to do the things I say I'm going to do, or I want to try something new. And so always I have this thought of like, Habib, didn't you say you're going to do that? Didn't you say that you're going to, like, let's say, for example, ship code every day, or like take a walk every day, or, write in my journal, right? So I built this tool basically to really keep myself honest, track what I'm doing, and also expand. It's not about just being consistent. And this is where my EP-ness is coming into, the discipline. Having a single discipline, sometimes a routine is going to work for you for like some months, and then you do have to change it up. And so this system, the system I'm creating, is going to allow for changing it up, for variety, right? Like you might need a different routine at a different time. You might want to get good at a different skill at a different time. So like just being consistent in one area and then like chilling the fuck out, and then maybe doing something else, getting good in another area, right?
So that's interesting. I was going to ask you how does this, because there's a lot of these websites around, right? So how does this one compare on the SE spectrum to like other websites, right?
Yeah,
so you were just
absolutely.
saying that it's like it allows you for freedom within your plan.
Yeah, it's about freedom, and what I'm really going to flesh out in the coming months is more of a robust template engine of you see, I have some templates here, but it's just kind of basic, right? Like, okay, eat a vegetable. All right, I added that.
Eat a vegetable.
And now it's
every day.
Right, like eat a vegetable.
That's
hey, you got to remember.
Like, it doesn't matter what vegetable, just make sure it's a vegetable.
Yeah, I speak the EP language. I'm not here to control you, bro.
Right.
Eat whatever vegetable you want. If it's a potato, I'm not gonna say anything. I'll turn the other cheek, But yeah, so you can be like, oh, I ate a vegetable. Okay, not a potato. Eat some salad or something. I walked today. I did write in my journal today. I haven't shipped code, so I'm in a moment of incongruence. So now I'm looking at this and I'm saying, hey, like, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I'm not being the person who I'm going to be. And I check the logs, even though it's green over here, I can see, it doesn't have this. How did I do earlier? Did I ship code any of these days? I didn't. I did this day. Okay, good. I can pat myself on the back for that day. But, for this day and for this day, what happened yesterday, right? What's going on? You have to track it in the ST. And look at all these days. I was on vacation, right? So I didn't do much over here. So I can
click
see.
On it. Maybe you did it, but you didn't click on it. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of these other systems, they're either penalizing you, for skipping days, or they're encouraging a little too much for you to have a streak. And so the reason why my system is different is we're not encouraging you to have a streak. We're encouraging you to not be controlled, have your own freedom. Look, we're all on this journey. We're all being rough on ourselves. Well, I don't know. I am, right? So, and I imagine people are, right? Like if you're not living up to your standards, you might be rough on yourself. So this system is a little bit easier. It's more relaxed, right? And so you can store up to 7 habits, and and then just track them. And you also have more routines, right? And
so you essentially created this for yourself or for the public, because like the apps that were there weren't working well? I'll bring you back.
I created it for everyone. Yeah, absolutely. So you have all those routines. So the apps that are out there are not working for me. There is one that I am using. So if you want something that's a little bit more established, I'll plug them. It's called Everyday. That's a pretty good app. I've been using that one as I'm building this one out. And so I'm challenging myself by comparing myself to the tribe to see the best tool that's out there for me was this Everyday tool. But the problem with that one is you can't track routines. It doesn't have templates. It doesn't have inspiration. It's not, it's encouraging streaks a little too much. So I don't want to be controlled into like, they're like, oh, you've been on a streak for 10 days. It's like, motherfucker, I can't keep that shit up. Like,
Right.
I can't, you know, it's, who are we lying? Who are we kidding? Like, you know, there's this one website where this person had like a 700-day streak. I'm like, I'm not trying to live that life. I'm not trying to live this 700-day streak life. Like,
Right.
we have shit to do. We have better things to do. You gotta get good at this. Get good at working out. Move on. Get good at your bills. Move on. Get good at your morning routine and move on. Right. So this is, you know, this tool compared to the others on the spectrum, it's just better at variety.
Okay. Cool.
And consistency, like kind of making those two meet.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of questions here, and we're about the halfway mark. So I mean, we're not going to ask all of them. I'm sorry, guys. I see a whole bunch of your questions. So this is an interesting one. We didn't really talk about your DE or the DI yet, but it's a good segue into that. What's it like to have DI subservient? Is your DI subservient to your DE? Do you feel like that's really going on, first of all?
It is. It is.
Okay.
Like anytime my wife needs something, I drop everything that's on my, anything that like I have going on, I'll drop it if she has something going on. If my parents, like the whole reason why I went into engineering is because my brothers were being irresponsible with money, and they were not going after like lucrative positions, or they didn't have a good plan to make money. So I was like, all right, I'll do the thing that makes the most money, you know, software engineering, right? And so rather than going to like medical school or doing a PhD or doing anything like that, all right, I'm not, whatever. But like, I sacrificed what I wanted to do in order to make money for the family. I sacrificed what I'm doing, you know, on a daily or weekly basis to make sure that my wife has everything she needs. So what is it like? It's really having to be strict with who is in your DI and who is in your DE, who is in your tribe. And then like kind of it, you know, like not being able to really choose your DI all the time. What it causes is sometimes I reflect back and I realize I haven't done shit for me.
Yeah.
Like I haven't actually, like these things that I thought I was doing for me, it turns out that I was doing it for others. And that is a mindfuck. Yeah.
Because you've got them both balanced in the middle, do you see the double deciding? Do you see the crosstalk between the two? Do you see like how your FI influences the TE positively and negatively, and vice versa?
It's yeah, it definitely affects positively and negatively, because the person that I have chosen to value, it could be a bad person. It could be someone who doesn't have their my best interests at heart. Right? Someone might be trying to serve their DI at a like 70-30 ratio. And like they're trying to screw me a little bit. They're maybe helping me a little bit, but like I'm like being on the wrong side of the deal. Like
right.
And so that's how it's negative. But like sometimes I see my DI serving me, because then I can actually like choose. So being a double decider, I can actually choose, hey, this person is kind of toxic, or like this person is in a hard place in their life, and I just don't have what it takes.
Right.
I don't have what it takes to support this tribe member. This tribe member needs too much.
Right.
From
what about
me.
in terms? What about in terms of the F and the T? Do you see like your emotions sort of clouding your judgment sometimes? Do you see yourself? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, that one's way more blind, because like my emotions, like my wife will say, you thought you're making logical decisions, you're actually making emotional ones, right? Like it's actually, yeah. So my emotions do cloud my judgment. It's really the TE is like the bullshit logic to get away with whatever the FI is actually wanting. The FI standards, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is because you're seeing the spectrum. What are flaws of the ISTPs? There we go.
What's up, Flores? Yeah, the flaws of the ISTPs. You know, it's kind of like the, you know, it hasn't happened in this interview, right? But sometimes it's like a lot of the questions, like other people are not doing TI, and sometimes the way you may be puzzling something together, it's like, hey, but how does this work? How does this block work? How does this block work? And the other people just may not have TI. And so maybe they haven't thought it through, but it doesn't mean it's not valuable. Like it's still valuable, but it's just maybe not like they haven't constructed their logic the way you are. Like I love TI. Like my wife might be TI. Flores is a great person to talk to. You're also great. And so it's great for you. TI is great for you, but everyone isn't necessarily doing it.
You're doing a lot of good qualifiers here. You want to just kick our ass. Just go for it. It's okay. Don't have to be careful. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say just be careful with the 20 questions. It's not necessarily, but that is what people like. That is you being you, right? So like, I think you're just gonna have to. Okay. You know what it comes into? The FE, right? Like, just be happy to FE with people. Just be happy to keep the vibe good. Even if the logic doesn't work out, just be happy that like people are forgiving. Like they might not meet your standard of logic, but they might still be a good friend. They might be dumb, but they might still like you.
Do you get do you see TIs get stuck on things sometimes? Like from your perspective, at least?
I would say isolation, like having a more isolated perspective of knowledge building, like building knowledge in isolation, or just having life in a more isolated way. Like
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
How do you consider your double feminine sleep compared to your double masculine play? Less intense?
Yeah, it's I would say in a way it's more intense.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So this is something that I wanted to talk about. The a masculine, especially because I have double masculine saviors, both of them are saviors. Like I recognize if I'm ever going to do my demons, like I have to start loving femininity, flexibility. And it's always been this way of like, where is this coming from? The double feminine sleep, it's the NIFI, it's the standard. It's like, why are we even alive? Why are we going about our day? Why are we doing anything? The standards, the self, it's very wishy-washy. Right. It's very gaseous.
Is there a darkness there? Do you identify with the darkness being there?
It's more like, it's a lack of conclusioning. Like, it's kind of like, because it's not like, think about masculine NI is like about drawing conclusions, right?
Yeah.
Feminine NI, feminine FI, it's not solid. It's not solid, which means that I can, if let's say I didn't like someone, right? Like I don't like my oldest brother, right? Okay. But the problem with that, and he knows this about me, and this is why it's a problematic relationship, is because he knows that I'll forgive him. He knows that my FI is feminine. Like he doesn't know OP, but he knows that I'll forgive him. My dad too, like they know that my FI is not solid. So even if I make a negative judgment, that negative judgment is not there for long. And right now, like for example, I was into the Habit app thing, right? So habits, like that idea it's not going to be solid. I have to make it solid. I have to make my judgment more solid. It's like, wait, are habits the best thing? Is that what I should go around telling people to do? I'm like, does this work for the EPs? Does this work for the IJs? What if I'm telling an IJ to do more discipline and then they're screwing their life up even more, right? Like it's, so it's always a questioning. It's questioning, but it makes it stronger. It makes it better. It's just like you put anything on trial, it makes it better. So the lack of conclusioning, the lack of being solid, it's making it stronger, more powerful. It's actually, so because I'm not fixated.
Do you feel like you're responsible for your own vibe sometimes? Do you feel like you're not caring enough about your vibe, your happiness, your I don't know. How do you go in and solve that? Do you lose yourself to the SETE sometimes and not? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I get carried away. Let's say, I'm about to hang out with a bunch of people. Like just be like, whatever the hell my needs are, I'll put them in the corner, and then just like make sure everyone else is happy, right? Like be whatever I need to be, put myself in whatever FI state that pleases everyone else. Me, I could take care of me later.
Okay.
And it's putting yourself on the back burner, not doing what you want, I'm not doing what I want.
Right.
As long as everyone else is happy, because everyone else is real, everyone else is solid, the tribe is solid. And whatever I'm able to notice about them, if their like body language is saying that they're bored or something, like I'm obligated to that. And then like me, I'll just be a puddle later on in the day. And so my wife is the one who has to deal with that shit, which is like, after I come back from making everyone happy, it's like, what's this pile of goo doing on my doorstep? It's just,
right. Why are you not happy? How do you make yourself happy? Yeah. So like that doesn't make you happy, getting everyone else to be happy, or it does as well?
It does. It does, but I have to do the audit. Just like I was talking about the ST auditing, I have to do an audit on my soul.
Right. The sunset.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I mean, so going into the sleep, do you come out with conclusions at the end? What do you come out with? Like, what does it actually give you, that audit?
It gives me dreams, new standards, judgments about people. Like if someone has been consistently, I could track in the ST that they're not good for me. I can make, so after I sleep process, I can actually figure out who is good for me, what is good for me, why is good for me.
It's the FI. It's like, okay, how are they affecting my emotional state? How are they affecting my values? Are they being a bad influence on me? Are they pushing me in a bad direction? Are they right? And so like it's going through that process, being like, okay, I probably need to hang out more with this guy and less with this guy, or
yeah. And then what am I capable of? Being honest with myself, like how much can I put into this person? Am I really what these people need? Like, what do I need from me? Right? Like how can I serve myself and how can I serve others? That's the easy sleep processing, is the people processing. The hard sleep processing is, what the fuck do I do with my life? Right? Like in this, it's not only like, what do I want to do, but what do I know about the world? What does the world need? So I'm thinking about the world, the universe, all systems, all players that are in play. Every human is a player in the game of life. We have 7 billion. How do I allocate the resources of all these people and then me? Because I'm just a single person. And so like, how do I best fit into, all of these 7 billion people? Like what am I best, how am I going to best serve them in a way that also serves me? Like, what is it? Why would I do anything? Why would I do engineering? Why would I do a product? Why would I do, why would I do anything? Like all these things, like what is there? What is valuable? What has a purpose? I mean, I think someone pointed out like Donald Hoffman, and he's talking about like the VR headset that is life, and that all of our perceptions are not like real or something, or what we're perceiving is just convenient. It's like Grand Theft Auto. It's like, it's not really what is, but it's just what we can sensorily handle. So what life is really about might be something totally different that we just haven't been able to grasp. And so I'm trying to, pick away at the edge of what we understand to be a valuable thing to do. Right. And so I'm just, like, that's where I see my role, is to do the edge, to be at the edge.
Could you also say it's kind of also like, who do you want to be in 5 years? What type of person will you be in 5 years? Like who am I aspiring to become? Is that kind of like also a sleep processing thing?
Yeah. There's all that, like all things linear. Like the issue with doing NI long in the future is you're assuming like some kind of linear, even if it's exponential, it's actually linear. It's like you cannot imagine of the discoveries and what's going to happen. Like people thought we were going to have flying cars. We don't have flying cars, but we do have some pretty amazing stuff. 2021.
Yeah.
It's just different. It's just beyond what we could imagine. So we're going to have to do some planning in the moment,
Right.
because you can't really do the 5-year plan. But when I think about like what character do I want to be, that I can do more, and it's still worth planning, even if it's linear, because your 5-year plan might be realized in a year and a half, or maybe it'll take longer, or maybe that was the wrong standard and you have to rethink, re-sleep process the standard you're chasing, the person you're trying to be.
So like quitting smoking or something that would fit into your sleep as well, like being
I mean, so for me, it's like, like getting healthy, staying healthy, figuring out how to do everything without thinking about it. So that's the whole point of the habits thing. Is the idea is to not think about maintaining your body. Like I was going to say, like ESFPs, I feel like we're like super INTJs.
Right.
Like the way I would go about like doing all the physical thing, like the ST is boring to me. Okay. Like the existence, like I do want to ponder the NF, right? And so like, how do I take care of all the physical needs, like money, health, wealth, happiness, all that stuff should be automatic. Now, what else?
Yeah.
What's the next thing? What's the next category? Give me a
new
NI category.
You want to devote your resources to something else. And so you have to first check off the Maslow's pyramid, like the bottom.
Yeah. And that's all, like, let's say that's all filled. And so I'm like looking as to what's next, because otherwise I don't have a will to live. Like it has to be like not a will to live, but like there's nothing pushing me. I don't see any mountain. I need a mountain to climb, and all the mountains I can already imagine doing it all. So it's kind of like, but that's where you're being incongruent, and that's why I'm trying to make all this stuff more.
The ST is very dry, and there's no meaning behind it. It's just, and so like
we don't have to fight wars. We don't have to fight wars. We don't have to do. Staying healthy is not like what getting money, getting healthy. None of that. Like we figured that shit out. Like, so what's next? That's kind of my vibe. So what do your observer freakouts look like? Hey, Fra. It's basically in the long term, it's usually when the NI is coming in and I can't like write it all down. So I'm like, oh my God, like none of this makes sense. That's where I am right now, is like, okay, so what if I do my hero's journey? So hero's journey, maybe that is the thing for me, but like so what if you get everything you want? Then what? Like there was someone who was saying there are no problems. There are no problems to solve. Like Elon Musk says, like, all right, life can't just be about solving problems, because like the ST, we can do all that. So like my observer freakouts are, what the hell else is there to life? What is there? Like family, friends, goals, happiness, love, like wealth. Like, is that it? Is that really it? Like, that's.
Yeah. What about ghosts?
Yeah.
What do you identify as a ghost in your life?
Yeah, I think like just hearing things, like whenever you're hearing things, seeing things, there are no real ghosts. So I'm just kind of humoring this question.
No,
but like,
no, it's okay. Yeah, so don't just TE bullshit this.
Okay, yeah.
Let's rephrase it. So like, do you see so you're gathering a lot of ST, and then all of that SE can fit into many different patterns. It doesn't have to fit into just one pattern. And so sometimes maybe you're seeing like, oh, this pattern is emerging, and get freaked out about it. Like, oh, this means there's a shadow government. This means there's, I don't know what ghost there is.
Oh, yeah, like the government. Right. Yeah, the government's an easy one. I just chalk it up to incompetence. But in my darker days, right, it's like, holy shit, they're trying to control us. Oh my God, there could have been something in that vaccine that was meant to track us, or like, I don't
Right.
know. I'm not even looking. I'll entertain it, so that I'll entertain for like a second, but I'm not actually like going all in on any conspiracy. But
Right.
but
like-
that is like okay. So I might think someone has a bad intention that isn't really there. That's
Okay.
my ghost. Is like,
All
I'll
right.
be talking to you and be like, oh my God, Benjamin
Right.
is
You're
out to
seeing
get
the
me. Holy
evidence.
shit. Look
You're
at
seeing the
that. He's
evidence pile
piling
up.
all the evidence. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Like,
it's like
oh my
looking
God,
for
all
the
my shit is
narrative
out there.
behind the sensory, looking for the narrative behind the sensory. And there could be several different narratives. Like you don't know what the narrative is. And you're just being like, okay, this is the scariest narrative. So let's lock onto this one.
Yeah. It's also like for me also, like, even if in the ST, right? Like, let's say the governments are incompetent, right? Let's say it's just incompetent,
fair.
right? Like,
That's fair.
Like, okay. So we have
Nefarious,
some ST
there's a
evidence,
difference
right?
between nefarious and incompetence. Yeah.
But then why is this incompetence continuing? Like, why are we tolerating it? And then that's where I can maybe do some weird NI stuff. But like,
Right.
it's, yeah, I guess if you're grounded in the ST, then you're not really going to see too many weird NIs.
Right.
If you're checking with the tribe too, like I'm not in isolation. If I was, right, like the quarantine, oh, there you go. Like,
Right. Yeah.
being
Yeah.
all
You're
quarantined
as
up,
well.
like when I'm not able to TE bounce off my crazy ideas, it's like, whoa, Habib,
Right.
that one's crazy. Like, don't do that. Like, sometimes you need that kind of gut check, the reality check.
Yeah. Because you're listening to the voices of the tribe too. So you can't go too all in on your own delusion.
I can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that also makes it a little less romantic. So I do have to rely on that NF sleep to actually go to somewhere imaginary, to go to some dreamlike state. Like, I have to do NF sleep. I'll come back with weird dreams. People will not understand what I'm saying. And so I'm going to have to make a judgment on which of my crazy ideas is actually legitimate and which of my crazy ideas is actually crazy. So out of the NF sleep, that's the hard part. But like, by the time I get to the NF sleep, problem is I have so much goddamn ST proof that, you know, I'm not going to come up with that many weird. By the time I get to the NI, it's not super weird. It's pretty practical. It goes through that practical filter.
The thing is, sometimes people get so much SE, like there's the confirmation bias, right? You see it start pointing. I'm not saying you specifically. I'm just talking about other SE DOMs that I've been seeing, where it's like they gather so much SE about pointing to one sort of narrative, and then they'll start seeing it everywhere, and they can't unsee it. They can't see something different. Like this narrative is projecting itself onto reality.
Yes. That's good. That's a really good point, because like, let's say ops is real, and everyone has this personality, right? It's like, wow, why don't we just stop what everyone's doing and just go all in on this? Like, everyone do it.
Right.
The thing is, what if it's only affects like 10 to 20% of our existence, and we haven't fleshed it out enough to make it actionable in the ST? So even if everyone has their type, like, what are you going to do about it? And like, actually, there's this other system that we haven't uncovered yet that no one is talking about, no one is discovering. Like, yeah, so like making a poor judgment on how important any particular NI is. Like, how important is wealth? How important is happiness? How important is like...
That's the F too. How important is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Really good. So I don't know. I don't expect you to be able to answer this question for all ESFPs, but what about for yourself?
I would say we're good, for sure, because, but you want to have a balance, right? Like, I would say that we're good because we'll actually work on what matters, right? Because we have the FI, we'll be able to point out if some feature just doesn't make any sense, like who will like this? Because if you get too TI heavy, you might start building tools that no one will FI value. So FI is good. TE is good because it makes it work. SE is good because all the technology that comes before you, you're not afraid of it. You're not afraid of downloading new data, so yeah, you'd be a great engineer, but you also want to have a balanced team, because what if you need someone to actually like sleep process some something, or blast, or do some NE, like do some creative stuff that no one has thought of before. Like we're not exactly the best with coming up with brand new patterns and brand new, ways of doing things.
So, okay, so I want to get to your blast last a little bit, but just before we do that, I just wanted to comment that like this app that you have here is kind of like that NF as well that you've been doing, because it's like, what is valuable to me? What, right? Because like it seems I see you saying, oh, I'm doing it for everyone else, but really, is that really what's going on? Where are you going?
Yeah. It's yeah, I'm doing it for me. It's but that's the thing, right? Like I'm double activated on the FI. So how this manifests is I do a lot for me, and everyone's like, oh my God, Habib is so selfish. He's doing so much for himself. But people don't know that, like, eventually people see like, oh, he's building himself up so he can help us all in the end, right? Like, and because I'm also not trying to take credit. So a lot of times whenever I'm helping people, I'm not about that credit. Like I'm not trying to get credit for anything I'm doing. For the most part. And so all people see is like, I'm just building myself up. And only the people who really know me are like, oh, he's doing this all for these people. Like, for example, I'm like getting good at the typing game, not because, like part of that is also to get to know and to be able to love every single type of person. Like that's my goal. My standard is I want to be able to love every 512 type, And so I want to be able to have be the kind of person who can have a friendship with anyone on the spectrum, and be able to understand, be able to FI connect with them. And so what was the other question?
Well, I'm going to ask you right now. I want to get to your blast because we only have like 4 minutes. I don't have a hard cutoff time. We can go over, but so blast last. Do you see? Like, I guess we're seeing it a little bit in how you communicate, right? Like through the whole video. Like it does take you a while to get around to the point. You are over explaining. Like, so there's two kinds of blast last as well. There's some people that are just like, they don't even help you out. They don't give you anything, right? From an interviewer seat as well. They're just really quiet. And then there's the kind that it's just, when can I jump back in? When are you done? I don't even know when you're done talking, right? So that's one aspect of it. I don't know if I don't mean to kick your ass or anything, but like, do you see, let's start with that. And then we'll talk about the other aspects of blast.
Yeah, it's because I have so much goddamn consume. It's like, whoa. Like if we're talking about any topic, there's a lot that I have to say on that. Right. And so it's also not filtered, because if you want to actually do a good blast masters are still trying to do blast well. Like I'm trying to tell you something properly, but the thing is, it hasn't been boiled down. I haven't thought of I'm not putting time in the ring of trying to hone in the idea in a way that people need to hear it. Like I'm not trying to, it's more stream of consciousness. Like, oh shit, I was just watching a 4-hour TV show, like, and now I'm suddenly talking. It's like, I haven't taken the time to actually tell you, like, rather than watching 3 hours of it, I'm watching all 4 hours of it. And rather than taking the hour to figure out how to blast, I've taken an extra hour to do extra consume. So that I can give you a more accurate view. Yeah.
There's also a responsibility aspect there where it's like, you don't want to modify the information. You don't want to change the information. You want people to come to their own conclusions, right? Something like that, where it's like, you want to give them here, I'll just give you all the SE. I'm not going to give you my conclusion. Or if I give you all the SE, now I have permission to do my conclusion.
Yeah. I'm like, I've looked at all this data and this is what I'm doing about it, but I don't want to control you. So,
because you come off more objective that way as well.
Yeah, because I don't know what your life circumstances are. Like, do you have a dying kid? Do you have, no job or something? Do you have like money issues? Do you have like life issues? I don't know. Do you have some terminal illness? Like, I have no idea. So like, let me give you the data and then you draw your conclusions, see how it fits to you. And you might also want to use that information for other people. And so the more raw the consume is, data, like drawing conclusions from raw data, you can make all kinds of charts. I'm not about to give you the chart. I'm about to give you the raw data.
Yeah. I'm also wondering if you see it as not pushing on people, not sticking up for yourself, not setting boundaries. Do you see that kind of thing with the blast last? Yeah.
Boundaries are like the hardest thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's figuring out, like, even for myself, like even if I'm alone and trying to create a schedule for myself, like what is the boundary? Like, oh, but what if I get really into it? What if my FI gets moved and I'm like doing this activity and I'm really taken by it? I'm like in a flow state. Like, I don't want to get in the way. I don't want to
Right.
taint the experience. I don't want to taint the SETE or the SEFI, because not only does a tribe need the experience to not be tainted, but also the self also needs the experience to not be tainted, right?
Right.
So because I have the SETE and the SEFI, and I'm like, all right, both for the self, and whether it's for the self or for the tribe, let's not let's not draw conclusions. Let's not start filtering too early, because we
Yeah.
need that, like the no filter, the hashtag no filter experience. Like that
Right.
is, yeah.
And what about in terms of like just when your demon blast does come out, like when it comes out in that really punchy state? I don't know if you have that, but it's like you're letting stuff pile on for too long and not pushing back, and then all of a sudden you do push back. Do you get that swing that you do end up controlling
Yeah,
the
yeah,
tribe at a certain moment? Because yeah,
yeah. So it's like, by the time I end up controlling the tribe, there's the good blast where I'm actually doing it based on data, and that could either piss people off, or people are like, "Whoa, finally, you're giving us some direction."
right,
Like, but it's based on data. And then the bad blast would just be my SE's bad. Like, I haven't done actual SE, and I'm blasting about something that, like I haven't actually processed. Maybe I'm blasting on something that I haven't really NIFI'd about. I haven't
yeah,
really like slept on, or I don't really like, I haven't gone through the animal stack in a healthy way, and I'm having to blast before I'm ready to blast, before I've
right,
really adequately slept, thought about it, taken in perspectives. Or maybe the people I'm playing with don't have the right perspective. Maybe the TE's bad, maybe the FI's fucked off, right? Like maybe I'm emotional, maybe I'm being emotional, or I'm getting bad info from the tribe. So my play is bad, and my SE is bad because like maybe I've only have like two perspectives in my data set that are like actually bad instances, and I got unlucky with the data. So there's all kinds of things that could go wrong
yeah.
that leads to a bad NITE blast. Like,
I
yeah,
wonder too, like, okay, so like, let's say the tribe is getting out of hand. They're getting rowdy. They're not in their place. They're not like that. Obviously aggravates everybody. But like for blast last, you're waiting for someone else to take responsibility for that, I guess. And then if no one does, and no one's like like no one's protecting, I don't know, the vibe or whatever is going on, like you actually have to end up coming out and like pushing on somebody, and it comes out like very forced and not in a savior state. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. Yeah.
yeah. It's more like something had to be done in that situation. You couldn't have expected me to do it better than that. Like, that's what you guys needed. It's like, oh, or I'll just be a puddle and I'll just apologize, and I'll probably say like, yeah, that was not good. I was an idiot. Like, uh, yeah, like I remember one time I like made this guy miss a game or something, like a sports game, to do something for me. And it turned out that he didn't really need to miss that game. And I was like, fuck, I had like bad data, or like I didn't actually like, I was just working with the best information I had at the time. So I kind of turned into a puddle, and I'm like, I'm sorry. And like, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's,
Cool, man.
but I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Do you want to leave us with a final message about your type? Maybe advice for other people that might have your type out there?
Um, yeah, the world, so double masculine, right? The world is a scary place. We have to figure all this stuff out. All that stuff is real. What I would say to people with those masculine functions, like whether it's the same or not, start valuing your femininity. Whether you're, wherever, however you identify with, start valuing your feminine functions, or what you can't do well, or where you feel, like it's too liquidy or gaseous, start valuing that life. Because for me, valuing my double feminine sleep NIFI has really led me on crazy, adventures, epiphanies, and it just is a more meaningful existence. Like it's a more meaningful existence to have contemplated my NIFI. So I encourage you all to do that as well, wherever your feminine functions are, or if you have feminine NIFI, like go for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Really great, man. Well, thank you for coming out. Check out Habib's app if you're interested in freedom and discipline at the same time. Have a good one, everyone. Stick around.
See you.